My name's Emily, and I was 24 when it happened. I didn't stumble into it. I didn't get drunk at some party and lose myself. This wasn't a wild impulse. It was a decision. One I made with my eyes wide open. It was late October in Austin, Texas. The kind of night where the air feels heavy with stories you shouldn't tell. I was standing in Jack's study. He was my best friend's father. The door clicked shut behind me, and the smell of whiskey and cedarwood cologne wrapped around me like a second skin. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't confused. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. From something hotter, deeper. Jack moved behind me slowly. His presence filled the room like a slow tide. When his hand brushed the small of my back, I didn't move. And when he said low and steady, "Let me take care of you," I didn't answer. I didn't need to. That was the moment. The exact one where I stopped pretending I didn't want it, where I stopped lying to myself about why I kept coming over. It wasn't to help his daughter with homework. It wasn't because I needed a place to crash. It was him. Jack's hands were slow, almost reverent. He didn't strip me down. He unwrapped me like I was a memory he didn't want to rush. And when his mouth found the inside of my thigh, every reason I shouldn't just fell away. But let me take you back. Before the line. Before the moment. Jack wasn't just some older guy. He was Rachel's dad. Rachel, my ride or die since junior year of high school. She was all bright eyes and louder than life laughs. She wore confidence like it was designer perfume, expensive and effortless. She made me feel brave, like being her friend made me shinier by default. We did everything together. Sleepovers, road trips, breakups, hangovers. And Jack. He was the steady one. The background hum in our chaotic teenage years. He grilled burgers on Memorial Day, dropped off snacks when we binged sad movies. After his wife, Rachel's mom, died in a freak car accident 3 years ago, he changed, got quieter, gentler. Like a house still lit from the inside, but no one's laughing in it anymore. Back then, I never saw him. Not really. But that year, everything fell apart for me. I dropped out of college, pre-law wasn't for me, and the debt was killing me. I picked up shifts at this greasy spoon off I-35. Diner food, fake smiles, dead feet. I was couch surfing, spiraling. Rachel let me crash in her guest room like always. Jack didn't seem to mind. One night, I was sitting out on their back porch holding a rent notice I couldn't pay. The kind that says final notice in bold red letters that feel like shame. I didn't hear him come outside. Jack just sat beside me like he always did, quiet, respectful. After a long silence, he said, "You're drowning, Em. Let me throw you a rope." That rope was a check. Then another. A used Toyota that ran better than anything I'd ever owned. A desk job at one of his car dealerships. Answering phones. Filing invoices. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt like a lifeline. And he never asked for anything. Not for months. Which is maybe why I didn't see it coming. Or maybe I did. It was a Tuesday. Late. Everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet except for the ticking of the rain against the glass. I dropped pen, bent to grab it. And when I stood up, Jack was behind me. Close. Too close. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, the heat of him seeping through the air. Then, "You're beautiful, Emily." Soft. Low. I didn't freeze because I didn't understand. I froze because I did. That was the first time he crossed the line, and the first time I didn't move to stop it. I turned, half expecting him to laugh, to brush it off. But his hand was already at my waist, gentle, waiting, testing. I didn't flinch. And that was all the answer he needed. That night didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like gravity. Like everything had been leading up to it. The way he touched me, slow, deliberate, didn't scream power or pressure. It whispered choice. And I made mine. Jack didn't rush. He peeled back my clothes like he was remembering them. Tracing skin I never thought of as beautiful, but under his hands felt alive. His mouth moved over me like a secret, and I let him. Not because I had to, but because for the first time in a long time I wanted to feel something that wasn't fear or failure. The next morning, I woke up to a text. "Come to the cabin. Just us. No questions. No promises. Just a location like a switch had been flipped." I went. He left the back door unlocked. Inside, white linens. Folded towel. coffee already brewing. Everything smelled like cedar and something warmer, like he knew I'd say yes before I ever did. That weekend, he didn't ask for anything. He gave. Warm hands, quiet looks, an envelope with enough cash to erase 3 months of bills. I should have felt used, but instead I felt seen. And that's how it started. The pattern, the rhythm, the silence between us that spoke louder than anything else. I'd show up. He'd open the door. And for those few hours or weekends, I wasn't lost or broke or scrambling. I was chosen, wanted. He never said I love you. But sometimes when he'd kiss the inside of my wrist like it was breakable, I thought maybe he meant it. Meanwhile, Rachel had no clue. She just thought her dad was being generous. She called me her second sister, told me she was glad I had him in my corner. Once half joking, she even said, "If you end up marrying rich, just let me be your maid of honor." I laughed way too hard, then cried in the shower that night. But the guilt. At first, it was quiet, manageable, like a perfume only noticeable when the air got too still. Jack told me I made him feel alive again, said that after losing his wife, he didn't think he'd ever want someone like this. And I wanted to believe him. I needed to. Because if it wasn't real, if I was just another escape for him, then what the hell was I giving up everything for? But it didn't stay beautiful. The thrill, the rush, it started to sour. What once felt electric began to tighten around me. He started asking where I was going, who I was texting, why I still spent time with Rachel. "She asks too many questions," he said one night, stroking my hair like it belonged to him. "You need space from her." I laughed, called him paranoid, but the next time Rachel invited me for margaritas and movie night, I said I was swamped, exhausted, behind on work. She didn't push, just hugged me and said, "You better not be sleeping with my dad or something," then laughed, like it was absurd. I did too, but my heart stopped. That night I told Jack we needed to slow down, take a step back. He didn't yell, he didn't plead, but the air in the room changed, colder, tighter. "After everything I've done for you," his voice was low, too calm. "All I've given." He opened a drawer, pulled out a velvet box. Inside a bracelet. Delicate. Diamond. The kind that doesn't come without strings. He clipped it around my wrist. Not like a gift. Like a contract. "You don't walk away from me, Emily." After that night, everything changed. Not all at once, not loudly, but like hairline fractures in a mirror, silent and visible until one day the whole thing shatters. I told myself I was still in control, that I was still choosing this. But it was starting to feel like the choice had already been made. Jack never raised his voice, but he started asking more questions, texting more often, popping by the office when he didn't need to, and I kept pretending it was fine. When Rachel invited me over for dinner the next week, just her, me, and her dad, I almost said no. I stood outside their front door for a full minute trying to breathe like a normal person. Inside, everything looked ordinary, familiar. Rachel pouring wine in the kitchen, the smell of garlic bread, music low in the background. Jack was at the head of the table, smiling like nothing had happened. But under the table, his foot found mine. A slow brush, then a firmer press, possessive, claiming. I nearly dropped my fork. Rachel didn't notice. She was mid-story laughing about some guy she'd met at her new job. Then out of nowhere, she looked right at me. Her eyes light but sharp. "Dad, remember that night Emily stayed late at the office? You guys were working on paperwork for hours. What was it again? What were you working on?" The room shifted. Subtle. Like something in the walls was listening. Jack didn't flinch. Just invoices. Tax stuff. His tone was smooth. Practiced. Then he looked at me. And I knew. If I said one wrong word, everything would fall apart. So I smiled, nodded, took a long sip of wine I didn't even taste. It wasn't a lie. It was survival. Later that night, alone in my car, the bracelet on my wrist caught the streetlight. It looked like a gift. But it felt like a leash. 2 weeks passed. More lake house weekends. More silence. More pretending. But something in me was changing. I'd stare at myself in Jack's bathroom mirror post-shower towel, wrapped tight hair damp. And I didn't recognize the girl staring back. She looked hollow, like she was acting in someone else's life. Then came the text. From Rachel. We need to talk. Now. My stomach dropped, hands frozen, heart pounding. Before I could respond, my phone started ringing, her name lighting up the screen like a siren. I answered. Her voice was sharp, shaky. I went through my dad's phone. I saw the messages, Emily, the hotel confirmations, the photos. Silence. Then you were in his bed. I couldn't breathe. No excuse, no lie big enough. Only the truth. Ugly, raw, unforgivable. You were my best friend, my sister, and you were screwing my father. She hung up. That was the last time I heard her voice. After Rachel hung up, the silence wasn't quiet. It screamed. My phone didn't buzz again. No follow-up. No angry texts. Just nothing. But the next day, everything changed. She blocked me, unfollowed every account, deleted all our pictures, then posted one tweet, just a single sentence. People will betray you with the same hands they held your secrets in. That was all it took. By sunset, my phone was lighting up. Not from friends from the fallout. Mutuals texting, "Is this about you?" Coworkers suddenly whispering. My manager at the dealership called me into his office, said they were restructuring and cutting back staff. I knew what it meant. Jack didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up. Just disappeared. The man who once left coffee waiting for me at the cabin, the man who used to kiss my hip like it was sacred, vanished, like he was never there. A week later, I called, straight to voicemail. I texted, "Can we talk?" He replied hours later. One sentence. "This isn't a good time." That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just a closed door I didn't even hear shut. The money stopped. The lake house was being renovated. The gifts stopped coming, like the faucet had been cut at the source. And I went back to scraping tips at the diner on Riverside. Back to sticky menus and fake smiles. Back to watching my reflection in the metal of a coffee pot, wondering if this was what being discarded felt like. I'd lost everything. My best friend, my job, my reputation. But more than that, I'd lost the story I told myself, that I was in control, that I was empowered, that I was choosing. Turns out I was never in the driver's seat. I was just the passenger he didn't plan to take home. At night, I'd lie awake and replay it all. Every word, every glance. Trying to figure out where I could rewind it, where I could unsay the things I didn't say soon enough. And the shame it burned. But it didn't crush me, because something inside me, small, shaky, was still alive. A whisper, in the dark, that said, "You're still here." So I got up. Not all at once, but piece by piece. I stopped waiting for Jack to call. I deleted his number, took off the bracelet and shoved it in a drawer I haven't opened since. And I signed back up for school. This time, no shortcuts, no silent deals. Just me, a waitress paycheck, and a stubborn belief that I could still fix the mess I made. I found a therapist. A kind woman with salt and pepper curls and eyes that didn't blink at anything I confessed. She let me pay with grocery store gift cards for the first month. I started talking, then writing, then telling the story out loud, not to be pitied, but because silence was killing me faster than the shame ever could. Healing didn't look like I thought it would. It wasn't pretty. It didn't come wrapped in soft music and deep revelations. It looked like showing up to class dead tired after an 8-hour diner shift. Like crying in the bathroom between lectures because I didn't know how to forgive myself. Like folding laundry in silence and wondering if I'd ever be someone people didn't whisper about. But I kept going. One day at a time. One journal entry at a time. One moment where I chose honesty over shame, even when it made my voice shake. I stopped telling the story like I was just a victim. Because I wasn't. I made choices. Bad ones. Hurtful ones. Ones that cost me people I loved. I betrayed Rachel. There's no version of this where I didn't. She trusted me with her childhood, her family, her father. And I broke that trust for what security, affection? The thrill of being wanted by someone I should have walked away from the second I felt the heat behind his eyes. I thought Jack was saving me. But now I see it more clearly. We were both drowning, and instead of reaching for solid ground, we clung to each other like driftwood. That's what made it dangerous. Not just the age gap, not just the betrayal, but the illusion that we were helping each other when all we did was pull each other deeper. Jack wasn't a monster, but he wasn't a savior either. He was lonely, broken in places no one could see, and maybe in some twisted way he did care about me. But caring isn't the same as being good for someone, and desire isn't the same as love. Those are lessons I had to learn the hard way. There was one session with my therapist I still remember vividly. She asked, if Rachel had done to you what you did to her, could you have forgiven her? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Some days I still don't. But that question stuck with me. It made me stop wishing Rachel would forgive me and start asking if I could forgive myself. Because, truth is, I'll probably carry this for a long time. Not as punishment, but as a reminder of what happens when you trade your self-worth for someone else's attention. There were moments even months later when I'd see a black truck that looked like Jack's and my stomach would drop. Or I'd hear someone mention his name in passing and I'd feel like I'd swallowed a brick. But those moments faded, and in their place something new started to grow. Not confidence, not yet, but clarity. I started helping out at a women's resource center downtown. Not to redeem myself, but because I needed to be around stories bigger than mine, people who'd fallen too, some harder, some longer, but who'd kept walking anyway. I started to feel human again. Not perfect, not clean, but real. One night after a group session, I walked home alone. No headphones, no distractions, just the cool air and the sound of my own footsteps. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I had to run from my past. I could just walk with it. I wish I could say I wrapped it all up neatly, that I made peace with Rachel, that Jack called and apologized, that the whispers stopped and I got my clean slate. But life doesn't work like that. Rachel never reached out again. I still think about her sometimes. I still replay that last phone call, still wonder if there's a version of me she could have forgiven. Maybe one day she will. Maybe she won't. I've learned to live with both possibilities. As for Jack, he became a closed chapter. No final speech, no grand reckoning, just silence. I heard he started seeing someone, a woman closer to his age, someone with a quiet smile and a day job at a credit union. I didn't feel jealous. I felt relieved, because I finally understood that what we had wasn't love. It was escape, wrapped in tenderness and silence. And silence, I've learned, is not the same as safety. It's been over a year now. I've finished my first semester back in school, paid for it myself. Got my own place, a tiny studio with chipped paint and creaky floors, but it's mine. I keep a candle on the windowsill, lavender and sage. I light it at night like a ritual, not for romance, for peace. Sometimes I still get messages, anonymous DMs, people who say they know who I am, that they heard the story. I don't respond, but I don't hide either. Because here's the thing, you don't heal by pretending it didn't happen. You heal by telling the truth, even the parts that make your chest tighten and your voice crack. So here's mine. I crossed a line. Not in the dark, not confused. I walked into it willingly, and I paid for it. I hurt someone who loved me like family. I gave myself to someone who would never stand beside me in the daylight. And I kept quiet for too long. Not because I didn't know better, but because being wanted felt better than being good. If you've ever been there, if you've ever let someone choose your body before you chose your own worth, I see you. And if you're still carrying a secret, you think no one could understand, this is your sign to let it go. Write it, speak it, scream it if you have to. Because the shame isn't in what you did. It's in the silence you keep after. The version of me who walked into Jack's office that night, she wasn't evil. She wasn't stupid. She was lonely, scared, hungry for something that looked like love. And now I know that love doesn't ask you to lie. It doesn't make you small. It doesn't come with a price tag or an expiration date. Real love. It meets you in the daylight, and it stays. So if this story made you feel something, share it, like it. Comment if you've ever stood in shoes you weren't proud of. Let's talk about it. Not with judgment, but with honesty. Because healing doesn't come from hiding, it comes from standing still, facing your mess and choosing again and again to speak anyway.